Okay, so again, good afternoon. We're not quite there yet. I should say good morning. And thank you all for joining the credit union this afternoon or this morning this webinar. Today, we're going to actually talk about elder financial abuse, some awareness and prevention. It's a actual elder financial abuse day. And so we thought it would be a great opportunity to take time to set aside and just educate our members on this subject. So let's go ahead and get started. A little bit about myself so you know who you're going to be spending the morning with. My name is Sharice. I am the financial education manager here at the credit union. I've had the honor to work here at Partner Colorado Credit Union for the last 4 years. I've actually been in the banking or credit union industry for about 20 years. I'm born and raised right here in Colorado. Just a fun fact I include about myself. So let's go ahead and get into the presentation. So today we're going to cover a few items. The agenda I hope to get through is what we care about, and so should you. Actually protecting elders, things to look out for, red flags, things that you can do to protect yourself, fraud and scams to watch out for. I think the knowledge of knowing those things are super important. We'll cover all the kind of current fraud and scams that we have. And then what role do you actually have in elder abuse prevention? So we really care about this and we want you to as well. So what elder financial abuse actually is elder financial abuse takes form in financial exploitation. So typically by taking money or other assets from an older adult. Assets can also be such things as jewelry, house, or other property. This actually is not just limited to elder abuse, this is at risk. So this can be even somebody that just has a disability, and we'll look at that here in a minute. And then also this can happen by a scheme or a scam. So oftentimes we see the financial exploitation happening with a family member or a caregiver, somebody close to you. But this can also happen from a complete stranger that has access to you or makes themselves available to you. And that can be through a scheme or a scam. And we'll look at those things more specifically. And then what are the effects of elder abuse? There are lots of effects of elder abuse, most importantly, emotional. So depression, irritability, a withdrawal from just normal activities, and then of course, a great strain on relationships. If we see something happening with somebody that's close to them, unfortunately, there can be a great strain on that relationship or relationship they have with other family members. And then elder abuse is actually, it leaves the elder without very basic essentials sometimes. So this can be food or clothing, access to their own account or money. So this is a big one, right? This is somebody who has already paid their time in work and is already earning something. And somebody might be taking things away from them that would cause them not to be able to have very basic necessities as far as paying their bills or even just being able to feed themselves. So these are huge things to look for. And one of the reasons why we really want to talk about this, because we don't want anyone to experience this exploitation. So who are we really protecting when we talk about elders? So again, we define victims as anyone as 70 years or older, what we do consider an at-risk elder. This is actually Colorado's definition of an elder. We can see anyone really, I would say, as soon as you're an adult and you're not, you're being taken advantage of, there are really things that we can do to help you. The biggest thing though is the state of Colorado actually has protections in place for elders to make sure that this kind of thing isn't just protected against, but there are ways that the laws protect them. So this is really important. And this also includes, again, like I said earlier, adults 18 or older with the disability. So just anybody that's at risk that could be taken advantage of through vulnerability or emotion is really what we want to protect. And who are we protecting you from? We really want to bring this knowledge out to people because unfortunately, who we protect at-risk elders from is oftentimes our own family, which is a difficult position to put a financial institution in or another family member in. But unfortunately, this is the case of what we see most. And those family members can range anyone from a spouse, a child, a grandchild. I don't have listed on here, but a niece or a nephew. Really, it's a whole range of any family member that you can think of, unfortunately, that has access to this person who would in fact take advantage of them. And then other people that we look at, unfortunately, are friends, close friends and neighbors, people that they've known for a long time or just found a friendship with. And then, unfortunately, lastly, are caretakers. Oftentimes, although this isn't something that we're saying as a like a norm that we see caretakers do something out of their normal moral job requirement. Unfortunately, it is a place where we can see advantage being taken because they do have access to this vulnerable person and they're trusted. They're in their care and they're trusted on a regular basis. So it's just something that we have to watch out for and we want you to watch out for as well. So who is responsible for actually protecting elders? Lots of professionals are required to say something if they suspect a victim of financial elder abuse. And we are part of those professionals. Like I said earlier, the state of Colorado does have lots of laws in place to protect elders and financial institutions. Anyone really dealing with financials of anybody has a right, a responsibility, I should say something if they're concerned of any exploitation. And so this is one of the places that why we find it important to bring knowledge to because we are part of those professionals, but there are lots of professionals in different industries that are required to say something if they think something's wrong. Okay, so what to really look out for, some of those red flags that we want you to be aware of when it comes to financial abuse. So forgetting important financial business, this is a big one, right? And not so much forgetfulness. That happens honestly at all ages. Us not remembering where our keys are or where we put our wallet or just regular forgetfulness. This unfortunately is just a human flaw and it happens to all of us. So those aren't the things that we're talking about. We're talking about not remembering very important financial matters, making big decisions about these financial matters and people not being aware of them, right? Just not remembering that they made that choice. And then making major life changes or choices. So it brings us right into the next one, which is an elderly person is more exposed to unfortunately schemes and scams, and fraudsters will scare them into making big financial decisions when it is not in their best interest. And unfortunately, we're all exposed to scams. I received 3 scam calls just this morning on my cell phone. So everyone is susceptible, unfortunately, to these types of things. But the biggest thing is that if you are subject to this, if you actually give into this based on an emotional decision, there are, you know, things that aren't in your best interest and can really cause a hardship on you. Like we said in the very beginning, you're in risk of not being able to take care of your very basic functionalities that you need, right? Your food and your rent. And then, so the other thing that we want to look out for, unfortunately, is new people in our lives. And I think as we move through life, having new friends is a wonderful thing. And so I'm not saying that if somebody close to you gets a new friend that you should be suspect of them. That is not all what I'm saying. But unfortunately, when we have new people in our lives, when we're a vulnerable age group, people do take advantage of that. And so as a family member or someone also close, it's important to make sure that if we're concerned or something is bringing about a red flag, that we're aware of it. And then questionable behavior of relatives and close friends. So again, those that are close to them, an elder may have somebody that's very close to them, whether it be a new friend or a longtime relative, Again, those are the nieces, the nephews, the grandchildren, their own children. So oftentimes we see cases where if someone close to them, so people could have opportunity to exploit a family member and may take advantage. And the sad reality is we see this more often than not. And so that's why we bring it up as a red flag, because you might be, it might be your mother or your father, and it could be another sibling or, you know, a niece or a nephew or a grandchild, and you might be concerned that something's happening there. Be aware that this does happen. So we don't want you to ignore it because it's something that you love and care about. We want you to be aware that this is unfortunately the case and you can do something and should do something about it. Okay, so let's talk about ways that you can actually protect yourself. There are things that already, again, in our system or in our, that we have available to you that may be things that you can utilize to protect yourself. So the first one we have is to utilize accounts with protective features. So when I say that, I'm talking about the first one I have is like opt-in accounts. Those examples I have there would be courtesy pay, which is, it allows you to take the account negative, but it can protect you if something's going on in the account. And then we also have what we call identity recovery, which is an additional feature that you can add on to your checking account. And it can, you do just that, right? Identity recovery, something were to go wrong, it can help you recover your identity and make things whole again. Those are opt-in features that we have on existing accounts already. The other type of alerts that I'm thinking about are online or mobile alerts. So you have options right now online that could potentially help you protect yourself. Some of those traditional features that we have at the credit union, you do need to manage through regular computer use. But I do want to make sure that you're aware of them and that you may even be using some of them. So the first one we have is just a balance summary. So this one is information when your balance changes. So a simple alert letting you know, and this is via text or email, that something is going on. You can select whichever one that you want, and then you can select a dollar amount. So this is extremely useful if you want to just monitor your account on a regular basis. We also have a balance alert. So maybe you don't want to hear every single time your balance changes, but maybe you want to know if it's, below a certain threshold that you set, or even maybe above. So maybe you're just tracking your direct deposit, or maybe you're tracking what money is being used. And so that balance alert is really useful. We also have transaction size. So you can actually just pick a transaction amount over a certain amount that you may want to get an alert on. I love these features. I worked in fraud for a lot of years, and any of those kind of letting you know what's going on in your account without you having to do any additional work, I'm a big fan of, because they alert you to just regular things that are going on. And so you might say, whoa, why would my balance fall below the amount that I usually keep in there? It might be worth you checking it out. Could just be something of normal business, but it might be worth you seeing it because you could prevent from more things happening. And then we also have, through our mobile banking, you can do what we call a card control feature. And so on there, it's already on there. You don't have to do anything extra. If you have a debit or credit card, for both debit and credit, you can actually go on and turn your debit or credit card on or off if you're concerned something's going on, or maybe you've misplaced or lost the card. This is an amazing feature if something ever happens and it's after hours, or you're like, I think I lost the car somewhere in my car, but I can't find it, or I know it's in the house somewhere and I just don't know where it is right now. And so these features will allow you to turn it on or off. I will stress to you, if you were to turn the card off with this mobile feature, it does take about 24 hours sometimes for it to turn back on. This is a cautionary, if you're to shut it off Friday night and then need it Saturday morning, you might not be able to use it right away. Okay, so I recommend to get legal advice if you're unsure of anything. When you get into legal stuff for protecting yourself, it may be worth just getting advice from a third party to make sure that this is the correct thing that you're doing. And then never share or give your debit your credit card or PIN to anyone. We stress that at any age, but this is especially important when we speak about kind of a vulnerable member because we don't want anyone to take advantage of those features that you have on the cards. And then engage and communicate with your financial institution. We're really here to help, to protect you, but we can only do so much and we only know what you're telling us. So it's really important that if you're concerned or something's going on and it's something new to you, that you bring it up to the financial institution, you know, your teller, or your ASR, anyone that you're speaking to in your branch. You might mention to them that, hey, this is going on. I'm concerned about it because we're here to protect you and we can help you if only if we know what's going on. And then I want to make sure I stress to you that all your beneficiary PODs and POAs are up to date with all the companies that you do business with. So I don't want to dive too deeply into these, but I do want to mention what these things are. So like a beneficiary on an account really is the, upon death, unfortunately, it would be the person who gains advantage or profits from what you've listed them on, whether it be an account or insurance or whatever it may be. This person is who you've indicated to that business that you want to receive the benefit from the whatever you have. So whether it be money or insurance policies, things like that, the beneficiary really does receive those benefits. And so we want to make sure that they're up to date. One, because you may have them change over time as you get older. And two, it's really important that you have the person that you want on there, right? That is who is going to benefit from your accounts. And then we have a PODs and POAs. So actually a POA is a legal document giving a person, the agent or attorney, in fact, the power to act for another person. So this person can either be a very broad legal authority over a whole number of things, or it might be a limited authority to do something that you want. But it's important that if you're utilizing that, it is up to date in the person that you are electing to have help you in your business. And then we have PODs as well. This is actually an arrangement that you make with the financial institution, yourself, and the person that's going to be as POD to help as beneficiary to receive, again, your assets, things like that, that you may need to take care of after death. But again, most importantly, so many people forget to do these things, and it's very important that they are who you want them to be. And so make sure that they're up to date with each business. And then lastly, be aware of fraudsters and known scams. So if in doubt, call us. We're actually going to go through this in great detail because I think this piece is really important. But if you're never sure about something, make sure that you actually contact us. The credit union has a whole department, which we call loss prevention. Their entire job is to make sure that things go well, that it is as it should be, that if there's a scam or something going on for a member, that when you bring it to our attention, that we're here to help you or answer any questions. We also too have a sign up for just regular frauds. What's the word I'm thinking of? Known scams and frauds that you can be aware of. And you can do that right through our online banking under the resources tab. It's called fraud prevention. And there's a link to sign up for a newsletter. I actually get the newsletter information. It's every week or every month, whenever the information is available. And it gives detailed information about known scams that are going on right now. And it can be very helpful if you just want to be in the know of what's happening. All right, let me go ahead. I don't have any questions in the chat. Again, guys, feel free to ask anything. I don't necessarily want to talk at you all this whole time, but it is more difficult when we're virtual to kind of have engaged and open. But I don't have anything in there, but I will keep checking it if anyone has any questions. Definitely when we get into the fraud piece, if there's anything that comes up that you're thinking about that you want to mention, I'm sure the whole group will benefit from any questions or concerns that you have. Okay, So fraud and scams to watch out for. I'm going to go through each one of these very detailed. So if you have any questions, again, please feel free to ask. The first one that we have there, kind of one that we see that's common, is what we call the contractor home improvement scam. This one is executed by someone calling or actually coming to your home and soliciting improvements. And this can be, for example, I see like roofing or landscaping, any type of improvement that you might want to be making. They can come and say, hey, this is a service that we offer. I want to be cautious of this because local business can do this as well. So I'm not saying that anytime this happens, it's a fraud, but unfortunately, we just see a large number of scammers this way. And so we want you to be sure that you do your due diligence and understand how the scam works, so that nobody can take advantage of it. So this is in this case, either we see scammers doing a very bad job, so actually showing up and doing the work, but not doing very good, or just no work at all, which is even worse. They're both bad, actually. Bad work and no work is really bad. So the red flags that we mentioned here are really, really low bids. Sometimes people just give you a great price and that's good, and there's nothing wrong with that. But one of the red flags that we see with these scammers is they give you an incredibly low bid, so low that it's not worth the work that they're trying to do for you. They might require a very large deposit on the front end of the work. Typical businesses may need some material, money to start and get started. But most businesses that are already kind of working, they shouldn't need all of your money or very large amounts of your money to do the work. So you want to be cautious of that. Typically, materials are what doesn't cost as much as the labor. So you want to be careful that you're not paying a very large amount for something before the work even be done. So that's what we see often, right? Somebody pays a very large deposit and then the people never show back up for the actual work. Things like not getting a permit, right? Saying, hey, this isn't going to cost very much. I'm going to do it for a low amount. We really don't need a permit for this. We never want you to skirt around what's required, right? And initially, I think people sometimes are game to this because they think, yeah, I don't really want a permit. I want to pay for the extra cost. Well, neither does the scammer. So you want to be careful that you're doing it legitimately. And then, excuse me, one moment. Sorry, guys, I need to blow my nose. So you want to, again, make sure that you're requesting the business has a license and the business is also insured. These are normal things that even a local small business should have. So you don't want to skirt around any of the requirements because these things might also mean a big red flags for you. The next one we have is the IRS scam. This one could take form in a lot of different ways. So we just want to make sure we bring it to your attention and let you know that it does exist and to be aware of it. So again, this one comes in through a call that you owe the IRS money. All of these scams, especially this one, really drive off of your fear and concern that something is wrong. And so through fear, you believe that you must pay. This may also be in form of an email. So it doesn't only come via phone call, but it can come through an email or even a pop-up while you're on your computer. Again, just making you feel like you must pay by clicking on the link or the pop-up, or that you must send in your money. Don't ever click any link or pop-ups through something like this. I mean, again, if it's expected and you know it's coming and you want want the link, that probably makes sense for a legitimate business. For anything that you're just browsing and it just pops up and it requests a link, we would say we would never want you to click that link if you're not expecting that. And then in a normal situation, the IRS can contact you via formal letter and let you know what's going on. In any case, this case, I'll remind you again when we get done, you can Google information for legitimate businesses just to make sure that that is the number in which you should be calling. You can also just call the legitimate number over whatever information you may be receiving and just be sure that that is in fact who was contacting you. The next one we have is a family member in jail. So again, typically we see where it's grandchild, this can be niece or nephew. My own grandmother actually has experienced this scam. And so what happens is scammers actually fear you into believing that they're a relative and you need to help them either get out or stay out of jail. Typically what we see this being used is like they'll have you transfer money into like a gift card or a green dot or some other form of payment and then sending it in. The problem here is that you should never see this, right? That should never be the case. And so if you ever have to transfer money into something else, this is a red flag. Also, paying or giving information over their phone. Anytime you're working with a legitimate police department, they're never going to just want you to give information over the telephone. You would need to go in and actually take care of this. And so anytime it's so easy for them to have you get information and then relay that information over the phone is, again, a real big red flag that we see on this one. The next one we have is love scams. Love scams are interesting, right? Because they really thrive on just people that are vulnerable to just love, and that's all human beings. We typically see this one via the phone or the internet, and contact with someone who is vulnerable for love and gives or shows that love with money. So unfortunately, this person typically fosters trust and love with you right away, and then will request for you to essentially give them money. And that may just not be through your love, but it might be that they're saying, hey, we need it because something's happening, some emergency or concern. They might be in a bad place and they might need your money. And unfortunately, this is a huge red flag because they're taking your money. So we see this a lot with Facebook and WhatsApp. The red flags here is a new love interest. Unfortunately, right? They can have broken English, bad grammar. They may be far away. We see this a lot with like where they'll state they're in the military. It's just a situation that sets you up to feel a certain way, but unfortunately, they're just somebody that's scamming, but they're not really far away either. They're probably not really in the military. And oftentimes what we see with this is the pictures and communication that happen are typically come from a very attractive individual. Again, that doesn't mean that you don't have a love interest or someone might be interested or want to give you attention. These are just things that we see on a regular basis that we unfortunately get involved with because people are taken advantage of, and it's just not what they believe it to be. And so we want to make sure we bring it to your attention in case something like this comes up. All right, so the other one we have here is lottery or sweepstakes. If you are the winner of a lottery or sweepstakes that you're not participating in, something probably isn't right. A lot of times in these sweepstakes or lottery, they request that you send money back, like for the fee of winning, or, I'm trying to think what else. Typically they'll say, hey, you won, now to get your money, we just need to send this amount for fees. The problem is once you send that amount for fees, you will not get anything back. You won't win anything. The lottery or the sweepstakes, they just got what they needed from you, which was the money. Let's see here. The next one we have is check deposits. There's a whole like array of ways. It's very similar to the lottery or the sweepstakes, where basically you have to send money back to help them. So like with the check deposit one, what we see is where you get a check from somebody and they say, hey, can you cash this check for me? I don't have an account or I'm not able to get these funds. And essentially you give them the money, but that check isn't any good to begin with. So any scam that involves you depositing an item and then giving back money to someone, unfortunately, is a big red flag. We also see this where sometimes they ask you to open an account to help them negotiate items. The scammers can do so well in counterfeiting the item they give you, and a financial institution employee may not even know. This is where we talk about it's really important to discuss and communicate with us what's going on, because sometimes just seeing an item isn't enough. We need your insights. We see this a lot too for employment purposes, secret shoppers, employment offers, buying new office supplies and then sending back the money. So it's just, we recently seen one with a wrapped vehicle, whether it be bike or an actual vehicle. And so anything that I guess feels too good to be true, or that you have to do something to help somebody else, unfortunately is probably a scam. The next one we have there is credit or debit card misuse. Again, unfortunately, anytime you're not using the card the way that you want to, there's a concern for us, and we want to make sure that you're aware that this could be a problem. There's two ways typically that we see it. Sometimes a close friend or relative who has access to your card will borrow the card and return it to your belonging without even your knowledge. Typically, we only see that this one happens when you get your monthly statement and then you see that transactions have been going on and they weren't yours. So this one's all hard to see until after the fact. But if you're seeing something like this, where there's transactions on your statement and you're just not sure where they're coming from, you may want to start looking around. You know, is there somebody close to you that could be doing this to you that might be taking advantage that you need to let somebody know about? And then two, again, a close friend or relative might be asking you if you can use your card for their own personal needs, when you may really not have enough funds to help them and take care of your own personal stuff, right? This is where we get into a little bit of problem, especially if it's a grandchild or even just a child or a niece or a nephew. Hey, I really need this $50 for something. The problem is you really need that $50, especially if you're on, you know, a regular pay and you don't have extra money coming in somewhere. It may not be fair for them to be putting you in a position to ask for your debit or credit card. Next, we have giving out just any personal information. So this can happen in a whole slew of different ways, but any way that you can be contacted for your personal information. You want to be cautious when you're asked over the phone unexpectedly, right? Like, hey, we need this because most businesses already have this information and don't need additional information for you to give them. I know for us personally, we do identify you sometimes with identifying information, but that's through you contacting us. And even if we're contacting you, you can verify everything that you need to with a legitimate business that you can't do with a scammer. So this is a red flag if any business is calling and soliciting, or that they don't have business with you, right? If you're getting a business that contacts you and you don't even have any business with them, this is a red flag. Make sure they're tying the reason for the call and that it makes sense to you. Don't just feel like you have to, like you're rushed or feared into giving information, because we never want you to give information when it's not valid. Legitimate businesses that work with you, again, will already have your information. When in doubt, like I said, you can look those companies up to make sure that they are in fact companies that are valid numbers that they're giving you, and they should be businesses that you already know about and are working with. And then you can always call them back and give them what they need if that's a legitimate request. Unfortunately, we have seen so many scams with the recent COVID pandemic. And so we want to kind of bring those to your attention. The ones that I'm really aware of right now are like preying on your emotion of sadness. Again, all of these prey on some kind of emotion that you have. So it's not bad that you're feeling empathy. It's just that they're taking advantage of the vulnerability that you have. And so we've seen scammers actually requesting money for charities to help the sick or the ones that we have lost through COVID. And so just be cautious of that. Again, lots of times when there's something happening worldwide, there are legitimate things that you can give to that can help those in need. Unfortunately, this is also a place where scammers take advantage. So we want you to be very, very aware of it. We even had some testing facilities getting your information when they weren't really testing facilities. They were there just to gather your own personal information. And then we even had some FEMA COVID funeral assistance. Again, this is just preying on your vulnerability and your empathy, and it unfortunately are just scams. So in the end, talk to us anytime you have any concerns about anything that might be coming up. That's what we're here for. Again, we have a loss prevention department that they spend all of their time to make sure that we're helping you. Then if in doubt, you can also Google something. Oftentimes with any of these scams, if you Google about them, exactly your situation will come up. So unfortunately, they're not something new. It is something that we see often, but these are the most recent ones that I wanted to bring your attention. They're not all of them, unfortunately, but the ones that I wanted to spend time on today to make sure you were aware. Right. That's all on the scams. So what is your role in elder financial abuse prevention? Reporting it, telling somebody that something's wrong. So who can actually protect the elders? There's an adult protective service hotline that you can call. And then actual law enforcement, just your regular police department, your non-emergency numbers can be used to reach out to and ask what's going on. They can do a safety check of just stopping in at the home and checking in. It's our job to make sure if we have a loved one who's getting taken advantage of, that we're stepping in to help them. And then although we didn't cover this very much in this presentation, because we mostly talked about elder financial abuse and ways that people take advantage of your finances, if there is a situation that you're concerned of that might be happening real time, you can also just dial 911 in an emergency situation. Okay, any questions or feedback that you have? I'm gonna unmute everybody now. Let me see here. Okay. Okay. I think I got everybody. If you want to unmute yourself, if you have any questions. I did get one really good question here that I want to answer. And somebody asked about POD. POD actually stands for payable on death. And so it's very similar to the beneficiary, where if there are specific assets that you have, the POD actually has rights to them upon your death. So I'll go ahead and put that in there. Okay. Did we have any other questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
I have a family member who has unfortunately fallen to most of these scams that you talked about. Do you recommend maybe us as a family calling their financial institution and telling them what's happening? Or like what can we do as a family to help get her out of this situation?
Yeah, that's really the first and best thing to do is to let the financial institution know. Um, Obviously, we're having this today so you can proactively help. It sounds like unfortunately we have to reactively help somebody. But
Yeah.
we're here. We want to not just us personally, but if it's even with somebody else, we want to work with somebody that's going through something like this. And unfortunately, we see so much of this all the time. So we highly recommend that if you are able to reach out to the financial institution, like I said, we have a loss prevention department here, but if it's not here and it's somewhere else, the loss prevention department or somebody there can assist in figuring out what to do for that person. Because like we said, we want to prevent them getting to that point where they're not even able to have, their own very basic needs because of something like this, some of these scams that are taking place.
Yeah, that's about where we're at. She's losing everything. And yeah, we don't really know what to do, what legal rights we have and stuff. So
Yeah, I would start with have a I would say it won't hurt to call the adult protective hotline if you wanted to take this number down. But I would reach out to the financial institution because there is laws in Colorado protect them. I don't again know what that specifically looks like for being active and being able to help, but it won't hurt at this point to make all the necessary calls that you can to see what you could do.
okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. That was a good question. I appreciate that.
Hi, I needed to ask a question.
Yes.
Is there some way I can schedule an appointment with someone to review my accounts and make suggestions on different ways to protect them, or, different accounts that I need to open in order to um, be fully protected against all of these scams and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's good to check in regularly. Again, if you have anything come up that you're concerned with, definitely reach out to us at that time. But you can you can call your local branch location and just request for them to sit down, let them know that, hey, this is, you just want to go over your account with somebody and talk in detail about what's going on. And they should be able to, any branch location, whether it's with a frontline person or an actual manager there at that location, should be able to sit down and spend time with you. I did not. I'm going to include my information here in the chat. If anyone runs into any problems, feel free also to contact me directly, and I can get you in touch with the right person. Let me make sure. And I work here at the Arvada location, but that is my direct number. It comes right to my desk here. And then that is my email. But if you stopped into just the Arvada branch, I'm here all the time, Monday through Friday. And if you ever run into any issues, that's part of what I'm here for, to help with any questions or concerns, or call the branch and they're not giving you what you need. Let me figure it out so we can make sure you're getting taken care of. I'm glad somebody mentioned that because I almost forgot to put my information in there. I am going to stop Recording.